The community is really upset lately. We have to get into that. JK apparently is believed to be in a relationship now due to a recent alleged HYBE post. We also have an alleged creative director talking about JK, and what she said has shocked people. So Dumplings is there to decide. Let's get into it. An editor from American Vogue actually came out to talk about JK, and a lot of the people were really excited because what she said was definitely an inside look into how popular JK is or has gotten in the American market. Her name is Monica Kim, and she is apparently the former editor of Vogue, so she likely reports on the news stories. She writes that maybe her celebrity culture, editorials, fashion stories, or whatever exists in the industry. There's this post going around that states that Monica allegedly had some knowledge of what JK had been doing for a while. It specifically mentions that there's a lot of fashion houses that have attempted to get a hold of JK and get him as part of an ambassadorship. But the only ones that succeeded was Calvin Klein. She specifically mentions 3 other fashion houses that wanted to get him, but of course, I don't think she specifically mentioned which ones they were. She also mentioned that it seemed as if JK was the one that turned down these fashion houses, only to seem to want to work with Calvin Klein. Of course, there's many ways that this could happen. I doubt Calvin Klein is the only brand that he's ever loved, but at the same time, when he likely got those brands, he probably wasn't promoting as a solo artist and didn't want to do anything as a solo artist. A lot of people would also probably be upset at the label or someone for JK not taking those opportunities, right? And they would pin it on the label not allowing him to take those opportunities because the label would want him to focus on the group and not solo activities. That's what people would say. However, a lot of people also don't take into consideration what he might want to do. And I have to preface here that what I'm about to say is not implying that JK is lazy by any standards, but we as humans typically don't like to do more than what we need to survive. And JK can be a regular person who doesn't want to do more work when he doesn't have to do more work on his days off or his time off. Would he rather just have time off or work on solo activities? For some of the BTS members, they might want to do solo activities on their time off, but for JK and maybe some of the other members as well, they might want to just take that time off. And who knows, maybe sometimes the label takes the heat for that by making it seem as if the label is stopping them from doing that, when in reality, it's just JK not wanting to do it. I don't know. That's just a conspiracy theory that I have. And also, if JK is promoting in the group and is already doing a bunch of group activities, then he might not feel the need to stay relevant in people's minds by doing modeling or ambassadorships with the brand. So when JK did come out to do his solo, he partnered up with a brand that he loved, and that of course makes sense. I think JK will continue his obligations with Calvin Klein. Maybe there would be a contractual obligation, or maybe he just would enjoy working with them and would continue. But I think overall we're going to see less deals made individually than we are going to see deals made as a group together. It's very cool to see the relationship that JK has with several different brands and the ambassadorships that he chooses to take. It's very cool for someone to talk about this and really put it all out there for all of us to know, because I think it shows a lot more than even just what I mentioned, right? Because I'm obviously not mentioning the more obvious thing, which is that maybe he just didn't like any of those brands that he turned down as well. So it shows the integrity as well. It shows that out of the 3, maybe there were 1 or 2 that he didn't like, but there were probably like 1 that he did like and turned down, like what I mentioned earlier. What's really cool is we're starting to see the boys come back in a really organic way, because I think one marketing move that they could have done, which would have been really cool, would be trying to get all of the boys to have ambassadorships and link up with brands and get them on commercials, get them on TV shows, and start to really ramp up the exposure for all of them. But instead they seem to be trying to go for a more organic route. We are seeing them do things that they normally would do, and it feels very organic. We're getting videos and photos going viral on social media. It shows them doing activities, which some people are calling stalker footage. Could be stalker footage, could be activities, right? We don't know. Other people may believe that it's being leaked by the label to drum up attention. And I'm not talking about like actual footage, like someone waiting outside JK's apartment or something like that, but like footage that is seeming like behind the scenes stuff. But that is just a theory. And then of course, we are seeing things like live streams and that sort of stuff, right? Them all coming together on a live stream and doing one as a group is a very strategic decision that they've made. Some people in the community were very upset over all of the alleged touching that was seen in the live stream and other moments. Some people were talking about how it seemed like JK and V were touching a lot, while other people were talking about how that never happened and Jimin and JK were touching each other more. All of the members are known to touch each other, and specifically specifically when we are seeing things happen afterwards in a bunch of compilations, it can seem very real. When you take a clip, slow it down, zoom in, add your own captions and thoughts, you can really shift the narrative into anything you want it to be. While the narrative seems to be turning this into one of them being romantic with each other, which is why they're touching each other, you can also edit the clip in a certain way to make it seem like the members are annoyed with each other, annoyed with the touching, or that touching is more of a result of them wanting to kill each other rather than a romantic one. So you can edit anything into any narrative. However, when you watch the actual stream, the touching seems normal, it seems organic, and it doesn't seem to be anything weird or strange. Now, if there is anything romantic going on, I think a lot of people who have been in relationships for many years, like what people probably think Jimin and JK have done or been, would know that obviously the longer you've been in a relationship with someone, the less you're really touching them all the time. So if people are believing that they've been in a relationship for a really long time, don't you think they'd be out of the touching phase at this point? You typically get out of that after the first year, and people think that they're living together. So at this point, they definitely would be well beyond that phase. There's a lot of conversation online that talks about how the only point that people have used to disprove the relationship is talking about the military enlistment, specifically talking about how being part of the LGBT community would make them ineligible to be in the military. They'd be kicked out or whatever. So this is what's being proved, that they're not in a relationship because they would get in trouble. However, they've obviously not watched my videos or my points, so that's why I'd like to say this over and over again and talk about it, because it's clear that the community just isn't aware of so many of the different points that have existed, and they don't want to talk about that or address that. Now, one thing I do have to address and talk about, which is on my previous video or videos, I talked about how Are You Sure Season 2 being filmed was likely unlikely. However, it seems like it is likely, and I might be wrong about that. I'm not hoping that it won't happen. I am hoping that it will happen, but I like to keep my expectations down with that. It's also important to note that as of recording this, I don't believe any official statements have been made by the label. At least I could not find it. This was confirmed from sources that people believe to be legitimate, like Dispatch and other news sites that have talked about the label filming Season 2 of Are You Sure in Switzerland. So that would explain why people believe that they were there. Now, the Season 2 has already created a lot of controversy, as a lot of people are upset that this is even happening. This is interesting because it's not the reason that the group needs to be focused on first, because that's what I would imagine the backlash to be, that people want the members to focus on the reunion, or they want the audience to focus on the reunion, right? They don't want Season 2 to take away from that. However, people are upset because they believe it's queer baiting, or it's the label trying to further push the ship, with many saying the label should stop doing fan service, and there's no point in doing that at this point in their careers. A lot of this is just due to the fact that people believe that shipping has caused the majority of the hate between both of these members, actually. I believe it's mostly true as well. I say mostly because there are a lot of people who just ship and they never say anything bad, and they know it's a fantasy and all that stuff, so of course I'm not talking about those people. Now, my theory behind this is, if it actually is happening, and there's never too much promotion that you can do, especially for an artist. And it's not a bad thing to continue to do promotion and stuff that you've been known to do before. The boys have talked about their belief of fame and success. I don't remember which member it was that spoke about this. I think it was RM, but I could be wrong. He seems to be very insightful, so I always assume it's him. But they talk about not having the belief that just because they released something, it's going to be successful. And they're going about promoting it and all that stuff as they normally would, to ensure that they're putting effort into something, and so that it becomes more successful, because it can only be more successful if they put more effort into it. So they're doing the rounds, they're doing their TV shows, they're doing what they need to do to get attention back onto them and the spotlight back onto them. I'm sure there are people who aren't even fully aware that they are fully back yet, so doing stuff like this would ensure that those people are turning on their notification bells, if you will. So at this moment in time, I believe fan service is still necessary. I mean, the majority of any K-pop community is shippers. That is a huge part of K-pop in general. And so if it's real, and if that is a promotional method they want to use, then that is totally on them. I don't see anything wrong with that at all. Of course, I will be watching, so if you will be, let me know as well. Let me know what you think. Make sure to check out Patreon for more videos, linked down below. Thank you to Slowly Comment right here. Love you, bye.